My name is Pamela, and I am 25 years old. I was raised in a small town where everybody knew everybody else, which sounds warm and reassuring until you realize that gossip moves much faster than the truth ever can. My problems began the day my parents decided I needed to be taught a lesson. I can still hear the exact words that later echoed through every part of my life. They told employers across town that I was a thief. Because of that, I couldn't find work for 2 years. My father even said, "Maybe now you'll learn to respect us." At the time, I had no idea those words would turn into a curse stamped onto my name. It all started with a simple argument, one of many we had. I was working part-time at a grocery store while saving enough money to move out. My mother accused me of taking cash from her purse, which I had not done. I tried to explain and beg her to listen, but my father had already decided I was lying. He told me that if I thought I was so grown up, then I could face the world on my own. The following week, I lost my job. The manager wouldn't even meet my eyes when he delivered the news. Later, a friend quietly told me my parents had come in and warned him that I was not trustworthy. That was only the beginning. Every job application after that ended the same way. Friendly smiles, hopeful interviews, then silence or polite rejection emails that felt copied and pasted. Once, an interviewer accidentally revealed the reason, saying they had heard concerning things about my honesty. My stomach dropped. I confronted my parents, shaking with anger and fear. My father didn't deny anything. He folded his arms and said it was for my own good, that humiliation would make me obedient. Then he repeated it again, slower this time, as if he wanted the words burned into me. "Maybe now you'll learn to respect us." 2 years passed like that. 2 years of watching my savings disappear and lying awake at night calculating how long I could survive on instant noodles. Friends gradually stopped calling because I never had money to go out, and some of them believed the rumors as well. In a small town, once the word thief sticks to your name, it follows you like a shadow. I began to question myself, wondering if I really was a problem, if I somehow deserved the punishment. The only person who never treated me differently was my grandmother. She had raised me for long stretches when my parents were too busy. She used to say that truth has a long memory, even when people pretend to forget. Before she passed away, she squeezed my hand and told me, "Pamela, no matter what they say about you, remember who you are." At the time, I didn't realize how literal those words would become. By the time I turned 25, I was exhausted and emotionally drained. Then, last week, something finally shifted. After countless rejections, I received a call for an interview at a mid-sized logistics company just outside town. I almost didn't go because experience had taught me not to hope. Still, I pressed my only decent blazer and practiced my answers in the mirror, telling myself it was just another attempt. The interview began normally. The HR manager asked routine questions, nodded, and took notes while I felt the familiar tension build, waiting for the moment my parents' lies would surface. Then the door opened, and a man in his early 50s walked in, calm, confident, and commanding. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The HR manager stood and introduced him as a CEO. My heart started pounding. He looked at me for a long moment, not with the judgment I was used to, but with something closer to recognition. Then he said words I never expected. Before we continued, he needed to give me something. He explained that my grandmother had left it with strict instructions. For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. She had been gone for years. He reached into his briefcase and placed a thick, yellowed envelope on the table. My hands trembled as he set it in front of me. It was sealed and dated 15 years earlier, the date written in my grandmother's careful handwriting. Everything felt unreal, as if I had stepped into someone else's life. My parents' accusations, the years of rejection, everything crashed together in my chest as I stared at that envelope. I didn't open it right away. I simply realized that whatever my grandmother had planned had been waiting patiently while my parents tried to ruin me. For the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar rise inside me. Not fear or shame, but a quiet certainty that the truth was finally catching up. The CEO waited silently while I stared at it, my fingers hovering as if it might disappear. Finally, with his nod, I broke the seal. Inside were neatly arranged documents and a handwritten letter on top. I recognized my grandmother's handwriting instantly. My chest tightened as I read. She wrote that 15 years earlier she had anticipated this exact situation. She understood my parents' need for control and feared they might one day try to destroy me socially and financially, so she prepared for it. Beneath the letter were notarized statements, copies of recorded conversations, and sworn affidavits from people I never expected. Former neighbors, old employers, even a distant cousin who had once worked with my father. All of them confirmed the same truth. My parents had been spreading lies, calling me a thief, and warning others not to trust me. The CEO then explained that my grandmother had been one of the earliest investors in the company, back when it was still a risky idea. She had left these documents with him and the board with strict instructions that if I ever applied for a job and was rejected because of character concerns, they were to step in. He looked directly at me and said my reputation had been deliberately damaged and that they had verified everything. As I flipped through the papers, my hand shaking, I found bank statements showing my grandmother had created a trust in my name, kept secret from my parents. It wasn't enough to make me wealthy, but enough to protect me if I was ever left with nothing. She had written, "This is not revenge, Pamela. This is protection." Tears blurred my vision. For 2 years, I had believed the town's judgment meant I was worthless. Sitting in that office, I realized someone had believed in me deeply enough to plan for my worst day long before it arrived. The CEO leaned back and said they were offering me the position, not out of sympathy, but because I deserved a clean start. I nodded, unable to speak. When I left the building, I felt lighter than I had in years. But it didn't end there. In a small town, news spreads quickly, especially the kind my parents once relied on. Within days, people began asking why I was suddenly working at one of the most respected companies and why the CEO personally escorted me on my first day. The whispers changed direction, and then the truth surfaced. Following my grandmother's instructions, the company's legal team sent formal notices to every employer my parents had contacted, clearly stating the accusations against me were false and documented as malicious defamation. Some employers apologized, others avoided me out of embarrassment. My parents couldn't hide. They were called in by a lawyer. I wasn't present, but I heard what happened. My father tried to laugh it off until recordings were played, his own voice saying, "Tell them she steals. She needs to learn respect." The same sentence that ruined my life destroyed his credibility. My mother cried, and my father went silent. For the first time, they were not controlling the narrative. They tried to reach me afterward, calls, messages, even showing up at my apartment. But I didn't respond. I didn't need closure from them. I already had something better, proof, dignity, and a future that finally belonged to me. Sometimes I think about how close I came to giving up, how easy it would have been to believe their version of me forever. My grandmother understood something my parents never did, that real respect is earned through love, not fear. She played the long game, trusting that truth would wait until I was ready to receive it. Now, when I walk through town, people look at me differently, not with suspicion, but with curiosity and even admiration. Every time I pass a store that once rejected me, I remember the sentence that started everything. My parents told every employer I was a thief, and I couldn't get hired for 2 years. My father said, "Maybe now you'll learn to respect us." They thought they were writing my ending, but they didn't know my grandmother had already written a better one. If this story moved you, if you believe patience, truth, and quiet strength win in the end, don't forget to subscribe to True Revenge Glory, because the best stories of justice are the ones that take time to unfold.